this side believe that a simple analysis, a deep analysis of what exactly are the criteria and what exactly defines the normal average immigrant will give you all the answers to what we need here, because we will show you how those problems of immigrants are actually intensified by this current status quo and why what we're offering will solve the majority of these problems. But before we go on, I have to answer a few things. First of all, they told us that concentration is bad because there's no actual meaning that the kind of what we're offering is bad, because isn't bad because we're not offering any sort of meaningful interaction. We say like this: if you live in a neighborhood with a different culture, you go to the same supermarkets, you go to the same schools, you go to the same pubs, you go to the same hairdresser. This is how people meet, and this is how more reasonable and meaningful relationships are formed. The fact that you said they'll only say hello to their neighbor doesn't win a debate. Okay, then we have the fact that they know better and about freedom. So I'll answer that quickly. A, I don't know if they know better, because in the situation today, this isn't really working. They have no option. Then there is the idea, that they value people, that they might value people who look like them a lot more, and therefore they want cultural benefits. If that was true, why did they leave the place where they came from, where a lot of people look like them? Then they said that we shouldn't limit their liberties in general because they suffer the consequences. No, thank you. We said that we often limit liberties in order to, when we want to create greater goods, especially when it is the state that has to suffer from it. And we suffer from the results. We suffer in culture tension. We suffer from it in xenophobia, and we suffer from it in more welfare for people who actually cannot integrate into a Western modern society. But moving on to my actual points. Okay? First of all, we want integration. We want integration because this reduces xenophobia, which actually creates cultural tensions within us. What are the problems that we have today with that? And we'll go through a few things. So what exactly is, and these are relevant criteria. It has nothing to do with where you came from. First of all, low language skill. That's a given. Okay, after that we have the fact that you are underskilled, which means that you're already prone to more frustrating labor jobs. The sad thing, this is also true if you came from a country where you were a doctor. Because if you came from a country where the board actually meant, the board gave you their license to be a doctor, you can't be a doctor in Germany, you can't be a doctor in England, you can't be a doctor in most Western countries. Okay? Then there's the issue that these people are not familiar really with mechanism and institution. This is the average guy, which knowing what their options are, knowing all those things, and enjoying all the freedom which opposition wants to defend. Then there's the idea of different values, which we have a lot of, like arranged marriages or the lack of education for women. Then there's the idea that my stopwatch stopped. Then there's the reason that then there's the fact that you suffer from antagonism. You suffer from antagonism because, you know, there's xenophobia and people don't know about you. Why is this so arranged by the status quo anytime? Okay? First of all, language. You stay in an area that only speaks your language. You can go to places like Düsseldorf in Germany and see complete roads where the language spoken there is Turkish. You don't need to learn how to speak it. Further than that, even if you take the courses given by the government, you still are in a situation where your need for that is limited and your ability to turn German into a useful language is limited, so your chance for a job is limited. Then there's the issue of skills, which you actually have, and you, as the first government said, you have the lack of people to learn from. The jobs around you don't require those skills because they're all concentrated between this one community which you see. Then there's a different values, which is also intense, because you never actually see anyone that will give you an option to question those values. You don't see, for example, a model of a woman who is educated and therefore successful and say, oh, I might want this for my daughter. You say, oh, my neighbor just does exactly the same thing. And then, and this is especially the really important part, the part of antagonism, I'll take you after that, is enhanced. Because what happens is integration in this situation never happens. The new guys never meet the local people and vice versa. What happens is that they don't see the immigrants as part of the bigger picture, they see them as part of a different picture which they are not part of. And what that means is that they eventually tend to characterize them by the most shallow of criteria and the most loud and radical their most loud and radical members, because that's what they see on TV, not in real life. So suddenly someone says, oh, I'm an imam in this neighborhood and I'll talk about taking over all of Europe, and that is what they'll see. They won't see the normal scarf person who was in their supermarket and helped them carry their groceries back home, which is something that could have started a real meaningful relationship. How much time do I have left? Good, you.
Okay, but you need to show why the Muslim will go to the pub, why the person who doesn't speak the language will interact meaningfully at school, and why the cleaning lady will become a manager.
Okay, let's go through a few things. Okay, the Muslim will meet you at the coffee shop. Fine. Not the Dutch kind. Then, what was the other thing you said? Why the person who doesn't or why the person who goes to the school will have the language? Well, his chances of learning the language are much higher if 80% of the people speak it than if no percent of the people speak it. So I really think he has a good chance in that. And then why will she become a manager? I don't know if she'll become a manager, but definitely her chances are higher if she speaks the language and knows what everything's about. So we're good with that. So now we'll show you exactly that and why this will solve these issues that the status quo is intensifying. First, once you know the language, your options in a job definitely increase. Even if you won't be a manager, here's an idea for a job you can suddenly do what you couldn't. Answering the phone for service brokers, for giving service, calling people up. It's a better job, it's less frustrating, you get to meet and talk to people, which is a great example of something you just couldn't do before. Then, there's another thing that is really important, is that we as the society of the locals and the new immigrants get to see each other as individuals. We stop saying that we see them as individuals that contribute. We stop seeing them as the radical things that we just don't know. This is simply the case because we stop saying, oh, he's white, he must belong to those people who like to scream, let's kill all immigrants, or immigrants out of Europe, or else whatever. And then on the same time, we don't see them as part of these imams and Muslim scary people, which most of them aren't. These are only the most radical people. Time?
Less than 1 minute.
Less than 1 minute. So, what have we shown you so far? We've given you a much deeper analysis of what exactly does it mean to be an immigrant. We've given you why all these problems of being an immigrant are consistently intensified by the status quo today. We've shown you what those things do and how this happens. And then we showed you why our offer is actually the thing that will solve these problems. And this is an excellent proposition. I'm sad to stand for it.